Imagine that in a desert in Egypt, an explorer finds something under the sand while passing through ancient tombs. Soon, he discovers an old, dusty box, untouched for thousands of years. Inside are 13 ancient books, more valuable than gold. These books, however, were forbidden and hidden by powerful people who considered them too dangerous for the world. Why would anyone want to hide these writings? What secret could be so threatening? The answer lies within one of the manuscripts, the Gospel of Thomas. This ancient text holds a secret so profound, it could change everything you think you know about life, death, and immortality. It reveals teachings that challenge everything traditional religions have taught for centuries. What if the information you've received about life and death isn't accurate? The clock is ticking, and if you don't discover this secret soon, you might never get another chance. The Gospel of Thomas states that salvation isn't granted from above, nor earned by following rules. Instead, it comes from within. The true path to immortality lies in knowing yourself. But why would such knowledge be considered dangerous? To answer that, we must look back at the Gnostics, the seekers of hidden knowledge. They believed that Jesus did not come for worship, but rather to demonstrate to us our own divinity. This idea terrified those in power. One of these fragments, the Gospel of Thomas, reveals teachings of Jesus that the world wasn't meant to hear. Unlike the familiar stories of miracles and parables, this gospel presents a Jesus who speaks of inner wisdom and spiritual enlightenment. He doesn't preach about obeying laws or fearing divine punishment. Instead, he talks about self-knowledge. When you know yourselves, Jesus says, then you will understand that you are the children of the living Father. The implication is staggering. To truly live, to attain immortality, you must first understand who you are. The Gospel of Thomas suggests that within each person is a divine essence, a light that has existed since the beginning of time. Modern physics speak this ancient wisdom. Renowned physicist David Bohm believed that light carries information about the entire universe. According to him, matter is simply condensed light. Thousands of years before these scientific revelations, the Gnostics were already teaching that we are beings of light. If this is true, understanding ourselves means realizing that we are part of this cosmic light, eternal and unchanging. Our bodies may perish, but our essence, the light within, cannot be destroyed. This knowledge comes with power, but also with responsibility. Jesus' teachings imply that the material world around us, the kingdom, is both inside and outside of us. We are already living in the kingdom, yet most people remain unaware of it. Like a dreamer who doesn't know they're dreaming, humanity lives in a state of unconsciousness, blind to the reality of its divine nature. Jesus speaks of a moment of awakening, a shift in consciousness, when we finally realize the truth. When that happens, we become lucid in the dream of life, understanding that we are not separate from the divine, we are part of it. The journey to self-knowledge begins with disturbance. The truth can be unsettling. Realizing that everything you believed might be wrong is frightening. The world looks different when you understand that you are not just a temporary being, but an eternal soul, and with astonishment comes power, the ability to rule over your own life, free from fear, free from control. Remember to join our community by subscribing to this channel. Have you ever wondered what it truly means to know yourself? It's not just about knowing your favorite color or the things you enjoy, but it's about gaining a deeper understanding of who you are at your core. It suggests that true knowledge of oneself is the key to unlocking spiritual enlightenment and, ultimately, immortality. Spiritual enlightenment is not a mystical experience reserved for a few chosen ones. It's a journey, a process of peeling back layers of misunderstanding and discovering a truth that has always been there. It's about recognizing that there is more to you than your body, your thoughts, or your daily experiences. According to the Gospel of Thomas, enlightenment happens when you understand that the divine spark, the essence of what we call God, exists within you. This concept challenges the traditional idea that divinity is something separate from us, residing in the heavens. Instead, it suggests that the divine is deeply connected to every person, living inside each of us. Knowing yourself means realizing you are connected to the universe's essence, not just part of it. This understanding brings a sense of unity, a realization that there is no real separation between you and the world around you. The Gnostics believed that this knowledge was essential for salvation. They taught that ignorance of one's divine nature led to a life lived in spiritual poverty. To live without this understanding is to wander in the dark, never fully aware of the power and potential within. But when you come to know yourself, you step into the light. You begin to see the world and your place in it with new eyes. This awakening changes everything. It shifts your perspective from seeing yourself as small and powerless to recognizing your role in a vast, interconnected reality. Self-knowledge in this context is not about ego or self-importance. It's about humility and understanding. It's realizing that the divine spark within you is the same essence that connects all living things. This realization brings with it a responsibility to live in harmony with the world, to act with compassion, and to seek truth not only for yourself, but for the betterment of all. Spiritual enlightenment is not a destination, it's an ongoing process. It requires reflection, questioning, and sometimes unlearning what you thought you knew. It's about challenging beliefs that no longer serve you and being open to new understanding. The journey can be uncomfortable because it forces you to confront parts of yourself you may have ignored, but this discomfort is part of the process. It's a sign that you are growing, moving closer to the truth of who you are. The teachings in the Gospel of Thomas emphasize that this journey is deeply personal. No one else can walk it for you. It's a path that requires courage because it means stepping away from familiar ideas and exploring the unknown. However, those who follow this path find freedom because they realize they are not limited by their past or circumstances. You are connected to something eternal, something infinite. So what does it mean to achieve this understanding? It means living with awareness. It means recognizing the divine in everyday moments and understanding that each experience is an opportunity to grow and connect more deeply with the truth. It means knowing that the answers you seek are not hidden in distant places, but are within you, waiting to be discovered. Spiritual enlightenment and self-knowledge are about coming home to yourself. They are about understanding that you are whole, complete, and connected to everything. This realization brings a peace that is not dependent on external circumstances, because it comes from a place within that is unchanging. The journey is challenging, but the reward is profound. A life lived with purpose, clarity, and a deep sense of belonging to the universe itself. Back then, there were powerful leaders in charge of religion. These leaders taught that people could only reach the divine by following certain rules, going to special places, and listening to them. If people believed what the Gnostics said, that they had the divine inside them, then why would they need leaders to tell them what to do? The leaders realized that if everyone believed in their own power, they would lose control. They couldn't let that happen, so they decided to hide the truth. The teachings of the Gnostics, including the Gospel of Thomas, were labeled dangerous. The leaders said these teachings were wrong. They burned books, destroyed writings, and punished anyone who tried to share these ideas. They buried the knowledge that could have changed lives, literally hiding it in jars and caves so no one could find it. Why would anyone go to such lengths to hide these teachings? Because knowledge is power. If people know they have the strength and wisdom inside them, they don't need someone else to tell them how to live. The leaders were afraid that if the truth came out, their power would crumble. They wanted to keep people dependent, believing that salvation came from following rules rather than from understanding themselves. The Gnostics believed that you didn't need to look far to find the divine. It wasn't somewhere up in the sky or hidden away in distant lands. This idea gave people freedom. It told them that they were connected to something greater and didn't need permission to explore it. But freedom like that scared those in charge. They couldn't risk losing control over the people, so they made sure the truth stayed hidden. This story of hiding knowledge isn't unique. Throughout history, whenever there's been information that could give people freedom and power, those in control have tried to suppress it. Whether it was new scientific ideas, revolutionary thoughts, or spiritual truths, anything that threatened the old ways was seen as dangerous. One of the most powerful teachings in the Gospel of Thomas is the idea that the kingdom is within you and without you. When you know yourselves, then you will be known and realize that you are children of the living Father. What does this mean? Imagine searching all over for something precious, like a treasure, only to find out it's been with you all along. This teaching suggests that everything we're looking for, whether it's happiness, purpose, or even connection with the divine, is already inside us. The kingdom here isn't a faraway place you go after you die. It's a state of understanding and peace that you can find right now by truly knowing yourself. Are you enjoying the story? Support our channel by clicking the subscribe button. This leads us to another key teaching: self-knowledge and enlightenment. According to this gospel, salvation doesn't come from following rules, performing rituals, or relying on religious leaders. Instead, it comes from waking up and realizing who you truly are. It's like turning on a light in a dark room. Suddenly, everything makes sense. He teaches that this inner awakening is what leads to real freedom and spiritual growth. You don't need to look for approval or answers outside yourself. You already have everything you need within you. It also talks about the reversal of worldly values. In other words, things that many people consider important, like wealth, power, and status, aren't what really matter. Instead, this gospel teaches the value of simplicity and letting go of material attachments. Many of its sayings suggest that only a few people will truly understand the words of Jesus. This idea of secrecy and mystery makes some readers feel like they're being invited to solve a puzzle. It's as if Jesus' teachings are clues, and only those who are ready and willing to think deeply will figure out their true meaning. This can be both exciting and challenging. Some people love the idea of uncovering hidden truths, while others find it frustrating. Scholars have been debating for years whether this gospel truly contains the words of Jesus or if it was written later by followers influenced by other writings. Some experts believe that the Gospel of Thomas preserves authentic teachings of Jesus that didn't make it into the more well-known Gospels like Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. They argue that these teachings might be even older than some of the stories we commonly hear about Jesus. On the other hand, some scholars believe that the Gospel of Thomas was influenced by a group known as the Gnostics. The Gnostics believed in gaining special knowledge, or gnosis, to achieve salvation. Because the Gospel of Thomas talks so much about understanding yourself and finding hidden truths, some people think it fits perfectly with Gnostic ideas. If that's the case, it might not be as closely connected to the historical Jesus as some would like to believe. This brings us to the relationship between the Gospel of Thomas and the traditional Christian canon, the official list of books included in the Bible. The Gospel of Thomas has never been part of this canon. In fact, in many religious circles, it's considered apocryphal, meaning it's seen as interesting but not officially recognized. Some religious authorities have even called it heretical or dangerously wrong because of its Gnostic ideas. The Gospel of Thomas is very different from the stories most people know about Jesus. Unlike other Gospels that tell stories about Jesus' life, his miracles, and important events like his crucifixion and resurrection, the Gospel of Thomas does not include any of these. There are no dramatic moments where Jesus walks on water, heals the sick, or rises from the dead. Instead, this gospel is a simple collection of sayings. It's like a book of quotes, short teachings that Jesus supposedly said, with no extra details about when or where he said them. One reason could be that the Gospel of Thomas focuses on the teachings themselves rather than the actions of Jesus. The main idea here is that the message matters more than the miracles. The writers wanted readers to think about what Jesus was teaching instead of being distracted by dramatic stories. Another thing that makes this gospel unique is that it doesn't follow any particular order. Most stories about someone's life follow a timeline, starting with their birth, moving through important events, and ending with their death. This helps readers understand how one event leads to another. But he skips all of that. It jumps right into the sayings without explaining when or why Jesus said them. There's no beginning, middle, or end, just a list of ideas for readers to think about. This lack of historical or chronological context can make the Gospel of Thomas harder to understand. In other Gospels, readers learn about Jesus' teachings through stories. For example, when Jesus feeds a crowd with only a few loaves of bread and fish, it shows his compassion and ability to provide. When he calms a storm, it shows his power and how his followers trusted him. These stories give context, helping readers connect the lessons to real-life events. By leaving out the story, it forces readers to focus deeply on the words. The sayings aren't explained or connected to events, they stand alone. This invites readers to think and reflect, making the process of understanding more personal. It's like being given pieces of a puzzle without a picture to guide you. You have to figure out how the pieces fit together yourself. Since there's no mention of specific events or places, the sayings feel like they could apply to anyone, anywhere, at any time. They don't feel tied to a particular story or period. Another interesting point is that by not including stories about miracles or the resurrection, the Gospel of Thomas shifts the focus from what Jesus did to what he said. In many religious traditions, miracles prove a leader's divine nature, but here the teachings themselves are the main proof of Jesus' wisdom. It's as if his is saying, don't get caught up in the magic, listen to the message. These 13 collections of writings explore deep questions about life, the universe, and our connection to the divine. Codex Y. Jung. Codex. The Gospel of Truth introduces Jesus not just as a savior, but as someone who brings knowledge to help people overcome spiritual confusion. It teaches that salvation isn't about following rules, it's about understanding the true nature of the Divine Father. This knowledge lights up the darkness inside us, guiding us toward a deeper truth. The treatise on the resurrection brings a fresh perspective. Instead of thinking about resurrection as coming back to life physically, this text explains it as a spiritual transformation. It's about awakening your soul, realizing your divine nature, and living with that understanding now, not just in the afterlife. The tripartite tractate goes even deeper. It talks about how the world was created, the nature of divine beings, and humanity's fall into spiritual ignorance. It suggests that our true selves are connected to something higher, and that understanding this connection helps us rise again. Codex 2, the Gospel of Thomas is like a collection of life lessons. With 114 sayings from Jesus, it emphasizes that salvation comes through self-knowledge. Understanding yourself and your place in the universe is the path to spiritual awakening. In the Gospel of Philip, we learn about spiritual relationships. It talks about spiritual marriage, suggesting a deep spiritual bond between people, and highlights Mary Magdalene's important role in understanding Jesus' teachings. The hypostasis of the archons introduces the idea that powerful cosmic beings, called archons, try to control the material world and keep souls from discovering their divine origin. It's a story of spiritual struggle, reminding us that breaking free requires inner strength and awareness. On the Origin of the World explains how the world was created, telling a dramatic tale of the battle between light and darkness. It reminds us that understanding this cosmic struggle helps us recognize the light within ourselves. The exegesis of the soul uses a beautiful story to describe the soul's journey. The soul, like a traveler, wanders and faces hardships, but ultimately finds its way back to the divine. It's a tale of redemption, showing that no matter how far we stray, we can always return to our spiritual home. In the book of Thomas the Contender, Jesus teaches Thomas about the inner battle each person faces. This text encourages us to confront our own doubts and fears to achieve spiritual victory. Codex 3, the Apocryphon of John, offers a detailed explanation of Gnostic beliefs, including the fall of Sophia, a divine figure whose mistake led to the creation of the material world. This story helps us understand why spiritual awakening matters. It reconnects us to the divine source. The Gospel of the Egyptians discusses how people can achieve spiritual unity with the divine. It teaches that salvation is about reconnecting with our divine origin. Eugenostos the Blessed continues the theme of spiritual knowledge, describing the nature of divine beings and encouraging readers to seek wisdom within themselves. Codex 4, the Apocryphon of John, long version, expands on the earlier version, providing more details about Gnostic cosmology and the spiritual journey of humanity. The Wise Testament of Truth focuses on the nature of truth and how understanding it reveals the spiritual nature of humanity. It encourages us to look within and trust our inner knowledge. Codex 5, the Apocalypse of James, shares revelations given to James, Jesus' brother. It talks about the importance of facing challenges and remaining true to spiritual truths, even in difficult times. Fragments of the Gospel of Mary highlight Mary Magdalene's role as a key disciple. She is shown receiving secret teachings from Jesus, emphasizing the importance of inner wisdom. Codex 6, the Discourse of Hermes. Trismegistus is a conversation about creation and the nature of divinity. It suggests that understanding the universe's origins helps us understand ourselves. The Defense of Hermes explores philosophical ideas about the material world and the divine, encouraging readers to seek higher understanding. The Prayer of the Apostle Paul offers spiritual reflections attributed to Paul, reminding readers of the power of faith and spiritual connection. If you're enjoying this story, please click Super Thanks. You'll be helping us explore these fascinating stories together. Codex 7. The second treatise of the Great Seth rejects the idea of a harsh creator God, presenting a vision of a loving, understanding divine source. It invites readers to seek deeper truths beyond traditional teachings. The Apocalypse of Peter describes spiritual revelations given to Peter, discussing salvation and the role of Jesus as a spiritual guide. The letter of Peter to Philip covers discussions about spiritual experiences and hidden knowledge, showing that spiritual understanding comes from personal exploration. Codex 8 to 10. These later codices continue with teachings about the relationship between humans and the divine. Texts like Zostrianos explore spiritual ascension, while Melchizedek highlights the role of spiritual leaders in guiding humanity. Marsanis speaks about the soul's journey through the cosmos. Altogether, these writings encourage self-reflection and spiritual growth. They remind us that true understanding comes from looking within, questioning what we know, and embracing the journey toward spiritual knowledge. Thanks for watching. Join our community by subscribing to this channel. Until the next video.